Can't believe I just did that. I just filmed 9 minutes of rambling, then I realized I hadn't turned on my microphone. Hope y'all are good at lip reading. Hey guys, welcome to J Hauser Writes. You can check out my website and join my newsletter, pretty please, at jhauserwrites.com. You can also subscribe here for talk about books and creativity. So today we are going to talk about maps in books. And I would love to hear your opinions as writers and or readers. I am super excited to introduce you to the Greenlands. So we're gonna have that sneak peek a little later after I explain kind of my process and recommendations, but we are going to look at the Greenlands. So the Greenlands is a pocket realm residing on the earth, hidden from humans. And there are two races that live there, constantly at war, and their war leaks over into the human world. The Cedar Nation and then the Ivy Kingdom. Maybe you can tell by the names, but these are technically shifters, I guess. They are plant-human hybrids. So just a fun place that is lush with a warmth of energy and magic and all that excitement. So let's just go into the map decision and making process that I've gone through, and then I will show you the beautiful, beautiful place. I should start off by saying that my experience and my advice and my thoughts are going to depend on how you're wanting to publish. So if it's traditionally published, the author is not going to be paying for or worrying really that much about getting a map. The publishing house will take care of that. Now, if you're self-publishing like I am, indie publishers have to do everything. So that's a decision that you would want to make for yourself. So let's talk about that. When should you have a map in a book? Depends a lot on your genre. First of all, it's mostly fantasy, especially high fantasy, and I'd say sci-fi. I don't know that I've genuinely read other books that have maps. Probably have somewhere, but I guess I'm the kind of person that maybe doesn't pay attention. But generally that's it, right? If you're gonna have a lot of travel, that's one reason. So people can get an idea of all the good stuff like landmarks, boundaries, borders, especially if you have a complex world where you have all of these different nations and they're going to Mount Doom and, so it's nice to have a map when it's pertinent. I think that maybe just a personal opinion that a lot of people don't care when they're reading about the maps. I mean, we skip over it. We don't just like study it intently, but it is a wonderful resource to be able to look back on and say, okay, yeah, I see what we're saying now that we're talking about this journeying. I see the distance involved. I see kind of where everything is, because even though reading is very much supposed to be something that you should be able to envision yourself based on the world building that the author gives you, it's just nice. It's like the book cover. It's nice to have a little something there that you can see. And I have had beta readers on my books that, I've sent out the manuscript before I got my maps made, and then after, and they comment like, ooh, it's nice to have a map and see everything now. So I can see it a little bit better. Can you go wrong having a map? I don't think so. I mean, should you have 20 maps? Maybe not, but again, depends on how complex. If it's very simple, I still don't think you would go wrong with a map. People would just overlook it. It's just one extra page printed. You can get it pretty affordable from my personal experience. So I don't think you can go wrong with having one. And I don't know that people would come after you if you didn't have one and they felt that you should, but give the people a bonus. Why not? When I first started my series, it is 5 books surrounding a main trilogy, and I didn't originally plan on having maps. That's probably because these 5 books started out as a standalone and then it just kind of spiraled into this series. And book 1 is like 90% urban fantasy. So we're just in a suburban area of the United States of America with all this, adventure, assassins, magic, all this kind of stuff going on. But there wasn't really a reason for a map because we're just envisioning like a high school. It's a young adult contemporary fantasy. I didn't really think that it was going to be necessary, but really it is an urban and portal mashup. And especially as I expanded into these books, it became more important to me to learn about this other realm and also be able to demonstrate it to my readers. So how I went about creating my maps. I think first of all, you just have to get the logistics down. What kind of landmarks are there? What kind of boundaries? What is your purpose for having the map? The first book in the series is called Cedar Shadow Wars. So like I said, it is in an urban setting for the most part, but we do get to see a glimpse into this alternate realm which resides on Earth in this little pocket that is not discoverable by humans. So we do get to see into that, even though most of the action does not happen there in book 1. But as the series progressed, I realized I needed to know more and I wanted to be able to show more to my readers. So my process had a lot to do with taking things from the book that were important and compiling all that data and then being able to transfer it to what I think it would look like. I had already written 4 of the 5 books when I got serious about making a map. And at that point I realized, well, in this book, they are walking on foot for 6 days across the neutral woods. I realized that if I have people traveling from one of the territories to the other, crossing the neutral woods, and okay, it's going to take 6 days, and then in the next book they're crossing a similar amount of space and it takes 9 days, and then I say, well, you know what, on that journey someone was injured and they were hiding, but on that journey, you know, so I'm going through all these logistics. You know what, I don't know how much readers are ever going to care or notice, like, oh, there was a discrepancy in how long it took them to walk across those woods. But to me, details matter. And so I wanted it to be accurate. So I did map out, I made a grid, I Googled how long does it take to travel by walking and take into account, okay, well, so-and-so's injured on this trip, they're healthy on this, we're coming across these obstacles, you know, they're climbing more in the mountains here, but not there, so they can go slower there, faster there, and I came up with my square mileage. I also didn't know how many people even resided in these nations, and I had to do some math because, was it 10,000 or is it 10 million? I really did not know how many people were in my space. So I had to think of their lifestyles, their technology, and I also Googled, again, population densities of different states with the United States, just to give me an idea. You know, South Dakota is going to be very different from Texas, from New York. And so I just kind of got an idea of like, okay, how urban is this place? Combine all these things, and how big is a territory? How many people would feasibly live here? So creating the map actually helped bolster things within my writing. I was able to make some edits about, no, you know what, that would have taken actually an extra maybe a couple days for that journey. And that changes things because those couple days could mean life or death to someone. And, you know, calculating certain serious consequences and realizing the stakes at hand. You know, if we're saying like, oh, there's a couple dozen people whose lives are in danger, that's very different from there's 10,000 lives in danger because of this particular strategy or attack, right? So knowing population, having the map worked out really helped me get a better idea of things. So even if I never put that map in there, I would have a better idea of things, but I am grateful, so grateful that it's there. The map maker that I worked with did say like, no one has given me this much specific. I definitely gave way too much, but I figured, you know what, I would rather have that information than not. The Silmarillion, this is not. We didn't go to that level, that's for sure, but it was nice to be able to expand even my own knowledge to be able to present it better. For me, it's just so helpful to actually have the whole series written out ahead of time, because a large body of water that is mentioned in book 4, I didn't even know it was a thing when I wrote books 1 through 3. So if I had not written the series first, I would not have known to put that sea in the map. So my series does have 5 books. I did have 4 maps made. Now it is all the exact same boundary, like it's all framed within these same mountains, the same 2 nations with the neutral woods in the middle, but the maps change over time based on political boundary changes and also just based on what matters in that book. When we get to book 2, I add a couple of landmarks because they finally come up. They're relevant now. Book 3, there are a lot more landmarks that pop up, and I don't mean like mountains magically pop up. It's more like names of cities. It would just muddy things up and maybe confuse people if I use the same map for, you know, book 1 when those cities don't matter. People would be like, and why is this on here? I thought, you know, it's kind of a promise to your readers that maybe that city matters if you marked it on a map. So we've got a more basic, and then it kind of gets a little more detailed by the end. Now I had gotten 4 books written at the time, 3 maps made, and then in my brain I just had that question of what kind of person does this? And then all of a sudden it grew into this whole story, and I realized that that one had very drastic changes to it political boundary wise. And so I reached out to the same map maker and said, hey, so I hope you still have all like the data and raw files so you can tweak that. And he did, and I was so grateful. Write your series all in one go and then get your stuff made. together. I'll talk about that more when I'm talking about book cover designs, because you want a cohesive look. So once I knew that I wanted a map, knew it was pertinent, had all the specs figured out in the stories and what I wanted on the map, I drew some out. I'll include some pictures of what I can find of kind of the maps and data I collected. Pretty rough stuff. Then you have to decide, okay, what kind of format do I want it to be in? I wanted black and white because I'm not going to print a colored picture, because it's not that kind of book. The only thing that's really going to have color is the cover. You also want to decide, are you going to do a hand-drawn map, or are you going to do a computer generated map? That is very much stylistic. It might also be a price point consideration, but it depends on your preferences. What I did, I looked on Fiverr. So Fiverr has, good and bad. And I decided to go on there and just check out map makers. Oh, I gotta sneeze. And I really do think that is a good place to get a map made. There are a lot of people that do maps not only for fantasy books, but also just for D&D. A lot of D&D players, or RPG players, like to do that kind of stuff. They will pay for character art and maps for their campaigns, and same people that are designing those can also design something for your book, which is the case, I believe, of the person that I used. I'll include his information down below. I know he's working on building up his profile, and I'm not sure where he is in accepting gigs right now, but he was great to work with. So if you do want a launching point, I'll include his information in the description down below. I decided that I liked his portfolio. I looked through so many different people and I liked what he could do. Now he uses software. Honestly, I think it's only like 30 bucks or something that I could have bought myself, but then I would have to go through the whole learning curve of learning how to use the software, which, don't get me wrong, that sounds like a fun adventure, but as a self-publishing author, I got a checklist 3,000 miles long. I've got to worry about ISBNs and LLCs and copyrights, and I'm at the point where I'm saying, okay, some things I'm going to take on, some things I'm going to outsource. So I outsourced the making of the map, even though I was grateful that he mentioned which software he uses. If I can find that, I'll also link that in the description down below in case you're curious about learning yourself, because it's probably not the hardest thing. It's probably not as important or difficult as cover design, for example, but depending on the complexity, it might take some time. I don't know, I haven't used it. But I got very affordable rates, and even though I only wanted black and white, he provided me color and black and white. I'm so happy about that, because then I can share them with you. That color is more, it's just gonna be used for promotional stuff, but I think it's really cool. So before I keep blabbing on, this is a long video, I'm sorry. Let me show you what the Greenlands look like. Here you see in the color, on the left we have the Cedar Nation, the Cedar Territory. On the right we have the Ivy Kingdom, and we have the neutral woods in the middle. So this is just the, I'm going to say, the default original map. This would be in the prequel, which actually won't be released until book 5, I believe, because it's a companion. It has spoilers for book 1, and it kind of, it's an external story. It's a side story, and it would also work for book 1. So this is just the basic layout before other big events happen. And then transferring it to black and white, it's not as easy as having a color file and then using, just Photoshop and clicking the black and white conversion, because it can really muddle things up. I wanted that shading where you can see the level of vegetation. It's important to my story in the Greenlands, where we have literally plant-human hybrids, all very nature-based. And when we talk about the Ivy Kingdom being a wasteland, I want to be able to see, both in black and white and in color, that difference in shading, that difference in visual, that this one is definitely more lush, and then this one is definitely lacking vegetation. And just putting it in black and white with a click of a button would not do that. You would need to actually tweak some things so it's not just like a muddied gray. If that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. I got a really affordable rate. I'm very happy with that, and I would definitely work with the seller again. I think there is a risk. I think especially with people that might do this as like a side gig, which my understanding is this is not the full-time job of the map maker that I used, is that they might get busy, they might get bored, they might not continue on. And so you would want to ideally get the work done for an entire series at once, because if they end up not being available for your next book, but you still need that thing done, you're not going to have those original files. You might get lucky to be able to get someone that does the same style, or to be able to do it yourself, but oh my gosh, the time that you're going to spend not only creating it, but trying to make it look like the other person did, to me that just sounds like a nightmare. So when possible, I think it's best to order in bulk. Might even get you a discount. And I hope you've gotten something out of this. I'm sorry this is so very rambly. Let me know what you think about my maps. I am really excited to be able to share the journey within the Greenlands with all of you. I will be announcing hopefully soon the release date for the book 1, and I am hoping to do a somewhat rapid release with the series, maybe like 4 to 6 months between them. Pre-order the next book, the book before it publishes, that kind of thing. So we'll see. And then you can see what the maps look like in person in your own little hands, or, you know, on your own little tablet or phone, or however you decide to purchase. So thank you so much for joining me. I feel like this was a super long video and I hope you got something out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you didn't, well, you probably already clicked away, but but you know, that's all I'm gonna say. I mean, you can certainly click the thumbs down. People do that. It happens. Hope you guys have a great day. See you around.